This week on Toadstool Boardroom, we've finally seen the Nintendo Switch 2, plus Nintendo teased a brand new Mario Kart game. We're going to break it all down right now. Boardroom on! Hello and welcome to episode 120 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of January 21st, 2025. My name's Logan Plant, and I'm joined, as always, by Justin Core. I say Justin.
What's up, Logan? Boardroom on. Welcome back. Happy Switch Tuesday.
Oh, very good. It is Switch Tuesday. We're recording a little bit early this week just so we can talk about all the huge stuff that happened last week when these guys were in the asylum talking about Donkey Kong, including Chris Shriver. Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
We got a lot to talk about. Switch 2 was announced last Thursday, bright and early, 5 a.m. Pacific time. Nintendo dropped the trailer, and they showed us the entire console. They showed us a tease of a new Mario Kart game, and they told us when we can expect to hear more. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the trailer first. It was 2 minutes, 22 seconds long, so Switch 2 right there, and they showed the Switch 1 leveling up into the Switch 2, and essentially all the leaks were real. Everything that we'd been talking about for the last several months on this show, since the leaks came last September, that's what the Switch 2 is. It's larger, the screen is 1 inch bigger, it's got the bigger Joy-Con that snap into the side and presumably attach with magnets like we've been hearing about, and it's got that U-shaped kickstand in the back, a USB-C port on top, a ton of stuff in here. And most excitingly, it looks like the mouse rumor is true, and the Joy-Con are going to be able to be turned on their side when they're detached and used as mice in some form. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, Justin, I got to just get your take on the Switch 2 reveal trailer.
The trailer overall, I thought it was really good. I think that keeping it like short and simple makes sense when they're ready to talk about it. Frankly, their hand was kind of forced, so I don't know if they were potentially considering doing something like bigger and more comprehensive, but they really couldn't keep putting it off any longer. And I will say, like, the trailer itself is largely like just CG representation of the Switch 2, but it looks great. It was really well done. It was cool watching it, like the way that they transformed the Switch 1 into the Switch 2, the way that it would kind of like etch out the new patterns on everything. I liked it. I watched it several times, and like as much as I will get to like the kind of the content of it, just from a production standpoint, I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because it's trying to serve the same purpose as that Switch 1 trailer from October 2016, just introduce you to the console, but it does it in a very different way because that Switch 1 trailer, it's a new concept. The hybrid console had never been done before, so it's showing you this guy is playing Zelda on his TV, takes it out of the dock and to let his dog out to go to the bathroom in the yard at 3 a.m. And then he's holding the Switch handheld outside, right? And that's the whole point of that trailer. It's showing you can play this on a plane, you can play it on TV, you can pop the controllers off the side. And this one, everyone knows what a Switch is, so it's just showing you it's a Switch, but it's bigger and a little fancier and has some new features. And I just think they did a really good job at communicating what it is, especially with the logo. I don't love that much. That just is the Switch logo with an enormous 2, like the biggest possible 2 you could slap onto that thing. I think that it's some PTSD from Wii U. They're like, we got to make this 2 as big as we possibly can. But it's still a good name and a good logo. I just don't love the aesthetics of it. But Chris, what's your take on this Switch 2 reveal trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I think they did everything that they needed to do in terms of revealing the fact that it is new hardware, it is a successor, it is bigger, it is. I don't know if they got across that it is better, but it is obviously bigger, and even some of the new features, like to the to the average consumer, I don't know if it's entirely obvious, that the Joy-Con are potentially mice. Because for the people that are not like locked into this as much as we are, like I was talking to a couple buddies over the weekend that they're just they're not that into following gaming news as the three of us are, and the people that listen to this show, and they woke up Thursday morning and were just like, wow, what an unceremonious way to announce the Switch 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's a valid criticism. Obviously, I was very excited to see it, and I'm very excited to like learn more. It stinks that we have to wait till April, but obviously, it seems like their hand was forced here. But I mean, overall, I think in terms of like, hey, let's get this out there, let's get people talking about it and speculating what could it be, and kind of drive that hype. If that's what they were going for, I think they knocked it out of the park. Because I mean, we're here right now, and pretty much all the internet has been talking about since before that trailer released that week, has been, okay, what is this thing going to be?
Honestly, it feels like that's who it was directed towards, was the folks who were going to see the mouse functionality and be like, oh, that's confirmed. Oh, the size difference is
Right.
confirmed. Oh, let me look at because they did ultra like tight shots on things like the Joy-Con thumbsticks and things like that. It seems like they were
Yep.
very much catering towards us and people who were really, really deeply into it. And if you weren't one of those people, you just saw, okay, there's the new Switch and it's bigger. And I think that's probably sufficient for a more casual audience anyway.
Yeah, right. This is just dipping our toe in the waters of all the news that is set to come. April 2nd is going to be Nintendo Switch 2 Nintendo Direct. We don't know the time that's happening yet, but we know that that presentation is coming, and that is surely going to be somewhere along the lines of that January 2017 Nintendo Switch reveal where we saw Splatoon 2 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and got a title for Super Mario Odyssey and Octopath Traveler and ARMS and 1-2 Switch and the price and the release date and the different colored Joy-Con. That was a huge presentation that just showed off everything we wanted to know about that system at the time, and we're going to get that for Switch too. This just wasn't it. And I think it's an interesting situation because earlier in the week, before the reveal trailer dropped on Thursday morning, it leaked that it was going to happen. And everyone was sure Switch 2 reveal coming Thursday, but the details of what it would entail weren't part of the leak. And it ended up just being a 2-minute trailer, not a 30-minute presentation I think some people were hoping for. And that got kicked down the road 2.5 more months. So that, combined with the leaks of the console itself, where we had seen the Joy-Con, we'd seen the Snap-on, we'd heard about the mouse, we saw the kickstand, all this stuff, for the people super plugged into it, I think some people walked away disappointed because the trailer essentially just confirmed what they had decided they already knew. I don't think that's necessarily a fair way to grade this thing because you weren't Nintendo didn't want you to know that stuff, right? That wasn't part of the plan. It's just a coming out party for the Switch 2. I thought it did a really nice job at setting expectations for what we can expect from the reveal of this thing. If they hadn't given us that Nintendo Direct date, or they hadn't shown that tease of Mario Kart, I'd feel a lot differently about the Switch 2 trailer. But just those two little nuggets of information of, okay, they've got stuff cooking, we know when to expect more, so we're not going to be sitting on this show for the next 7 weeks thinking it could happen any day, it could drop any day. No, we know we can shut up and watch our Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition trailers and just wait for April, and that's nice. That's all I needed from this, because already the rumors this month were exhausting of just, oh, it's happening and this is going to be there and this is going to be there, and now all that's going to just quiet down for a few months, and I'm happy about that. I want to ask, any concerns from the Switch 2 trailer? Anything you saw in there that maybe you weren't a fan of? Justin, I'll start with you.
Ooh, there's been some questions online about those the interfaces between the new Joy-Con and the main Switch body itself, because they're like small rectangular pieces that like kind of protrude from one unit and like snap into the other. I was trying to look really close at the images. Like, ideally, I'm hopeful that like there's enough of a gap in the opening, and like hopefully they're even like beveled a little bit, so that if you if in the process of taking off the Joy-Con you don't just do a straight out motion, but you do some kind of like twisting motion, you're not like snapping off that little connector on there, like if you've ever, like the older Apple connectors, like those chargers, how easy it was to snap those off. Hopefully we're not going to encounter anything like that. Generally, I would give them the benefit of the doubt on tech stuff like that, but we also live through Joy-Con connectivity issues, so I'm not 100% sold on that.
Snapping DS Lite hinges, and there's been plenty of nonsense over the years.
Yeah. And so like there's some questions like that, and I think we're gonna need some hands-on before people get a sense for like how likely that seems. But like hopefully it's not operating by too tight of margins on stuff like that, because for folks who do go in and out of those modes a lot, or frankly who just handle them kind of roughly, I do worry about some potential failure points. But other than that, no. Like I think it's largely exactly what I was expecting. The Switch deck seems just fine to me, so I'll take it.
Okay, so you just called it the Switch deck. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Is, gosh, this thing's gonna be big. This thing's gonna be really big, and I'm worried about that.
And I thought that would be a concern of yours, but you know why it's not a concern of mine?
Because you never play in handheld.
Never leaves my dock.
So it doesn't matter for you,
Yep,
but it
not
does
for
for
me.
me. I was
I thought of that.
so coming back from vacation on the plane, the person in front of me was playing a Steam Deck, and that thing's just huge.
Oh, yeah.
It's we're really stretching as we stretch the screen. We're stretching the definition of portable, and I think we've exceeded it. And the OLED is about as big as I want to be playing something on a plane or even on my couch. It's just your hands get tired or your arms fall asleep or just it's not that comfortable to hold for extended periods of time in handheld. And yeah, this thing is going to be really really big, and I'm just that's my biggest concern is just the size and the heft of this thing. I want the Switch 2 Lite. I want the Switch 2 Lite OLED, and that's years away if they even ever do it.
Yeah,
Chris,
with
what do you think of the size? Oh, go for it, Justin.
No, please go, Chris. I'm gonna let my cat out because he keeps meowing at me.
Oh. No, I mean, I'm obviously a big lover of the Steam Deck, but I think where the Steam Deck works well is the button placement, and the way that your main like A, B, X, Y buttons are to the directly next to the thumbsticks. Like it's just easier to hold, and I think it's important for a handheld of that size. I think between if this thing has like a high weight density because it is thinner than the Steam Deck, like I think it's just like it may feel heavier, but it may not be because like the Steam Deck, like the weight distribution is like probably it's on a wider surface area and you have more to grab onto than what it looks like the Switch 2 is going to be. And then you're going to have to slap a grip on top of this probably, right? For most people, like a Satisfy or whatever. So like this is going to be a bulky boy for sure. That being said, I mean, along with all of those concerns, I do expect that this is going to be an LCD display, which I don't want it to be, but I'm sure it will be. Taki Udon has already come out and said if you want to do a Super 5 OLED swap, he's planning on making one. So there's that to look forward to at least. But the bezels bother me for sure. Because the OLED did such a better job than this is like mating in the middle. The OLED did a better job of like cutting down on the size of the bezel on the OLED screen. And this one, it's like a little bit thicker on each side, like left and right. And I don't know why, because like it looks like it's still a 16:9
I
screen.
can tell you why.
Why?
It's because that's where the things snap in. That's where the Joy-Con snaps inside the unit. So that's the hollow section
how far
where
into
the
the
thing
body?
is inside of there.
But you could also like make. You don't have to make directly where the screen is. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm sure they talked about this or like this went through R&D.
They didn't think
but like,
about it.
Yeah, they didn't think about it at all. I'm the first one that had this thought. It seems like they could have made the actual display size smaller and then on the edges made that thicker. But I'm just a guy in Pennsylvania and not in Japan.
Just likes a nice narrow bezel.
Yeah, I just like a narrow bezel on my displays.
Do you think the battery life is going to be an issue?
Yeah.
In theory, a bigger screen consumes more. Bigger body means potentially a bigger battery. But like again, if let's say performance-wise is anything approaching a Steam Deck, that thing rapidly converts battery power into hot dog flavored air and has terrible battery life.
But like, well, and what's weird, where it gets weird is like, okay, how many pixels is this thing going to be pushing? Is it going to be a 1080p or 720p screen? Because if it's a higher resolution, then I would expect the battery life to be pretty bad. But if it's not a high resolution, then it's not going to look that good. So like, you need to have like you can't have it both ways. To your point, Logan, like it is starting to feel like we're getting away from. I mean, they're in a tough spot. Like you're getting away from. Okay, how portable is this thing? And we expect Nintendo portable consoles to be underpowered, but then they also have to compete with this market that they have now created. Like they're responsible for creating like the handheld PC market. So like, it's how do you please both audiences? Obviously, the standard audience of the average Joe is more in a greater quantity than let me go buy a Lenovo Legion Go, but like it's a concern that I think at least the armchair quarterbacks of the internet have.
Yeah, or maybe it doesn't matter. I look at kids all the time carrying backpacks that have their enormous iPads in them that they are on all the time, and this is smaller than that. So maybe people don't care that this thing
It's
is
different
almost tablet size. Why?
Yeah.
Why is that different?
Maybe thickness
because
for
like it's thickness. Yeah, like I'm looking around.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. But like when I pack, if I throw a 15-inch MacBook Pro into a backpack, like it's not that big a deal, right? It's like maybe a quarter of an inch. If I throw my Switch Satisfy case into my backpack, like I'm not fitting much else into my backpack. Like at that point, I
that's
might as
totally
well
fair.
just carry that case.
The Switch is definitely the least convenient thing that I shove in my laptop case when I'm doing any traveling. I will say one of my first impressions, honestly, though, when I saw like the size up and stuff, I thought about it is, man, that makes a future Switch 2 Lite seem really, really appealing.
Yes. Yes, very appealing, and I'm sure they'll do one. I think they're definitely going to follow a similar cadence of upgrades. There's going to be multiple versions of this thing, so people like us double dip, and I could easily see
podcast
them
full of
just doing the
suckers who
light-
have several of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'll say this, like, and I kind of can't believe I've been thinking it a lot, and we all know I'm going to eat these words, but like, this is the first time, maybe in my life, that like because of the little amount of time that I have to play, that I'm like, if I weren't on this podcast, I don't think I'd buy this thing day one.
Yeah, really. Even if it was a new 3D Mario, if it was the next Mario Odyssey,
I think the software lineup will make or break it. But like, there are just enough things that I would want to see in this model. I think the OLED screen is a huge one for me. Like every device that I use now is an OLED, except for my main
Your
TV
TV
in my
too?
family room.
Okay.
That's the only one that isn't. But like, it's a 75-inch LED. Like, it's a high quality LED. Like, I don't care. But yeah, otherwise everything's an OLED. So I'm kind of like, you know, it's hard, especially if it ends up being. So there's rumors that the price of this thing is going to end up being. There's 2 SKUs, 450 and 500. We don't know how accurate that is. If that's
where's
accurate,
that even coming from?
Seems
Where's this rumor was today?
some
And it seems
some
like people are just running with
insider.
it?
No, some insider came out and said he heard from somebody, his uncle that works at Nintendo, right?
I
It was
don't.
It was
think
one of
that-
those things.
I do not believe that is the actual sourcing on it. I think the furthest up the chain I've been able to trace it is to Gaming Bible. I don't know what their source was on that. I just shared a
Their
link to it in
source-
the
That was in
Discord.
what, rumors, right? Because I
Yeah.
shared the tweet.
Yeah.
Nick Shepshul,
Nailed it.
I don't know. But his
There you
tweet said,
go.
so if the person who told me that the June release is all but confirmed to be correct, then that could mean the pricing they gave me of $449, $499 USD might also be correct. They think the $50 extra is the Mario Kart bundle. This is the co-host of the Xbox Era podcast. I don't know what an Xbox guy's doing
Switch 2's
talking
gonna
about
be an
Nintendo.
Xbox, so.
Yeah. Everything's an Xbox.
Yeah.
And they're figuring out how much to price the
but did
Master
you-
Chief Collection on it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be there. That's what the bundle is. That's the $500 version. Is they're bundling it
That
with
would be a
Halo.
cool bundle, actually.
Yeah, we don't know if that's real at all though. But anyway,
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't.
So, Chris, what are like the main hangups besides the OLED screen that you were questioning if you would get this on day one?
It's just it's a lot of money to dish out for
Yeah.
for the next console, and like there's a lot of games that I have on my Switch library now. Like I still haven't finished Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Like there's just a lot of titles that like I haven't gotten around to finishing. And I think I need to see what does is this like okay, now you're up. Am I frozen? There we go.
No, looking great.
I think I need to see the like the PS4 to PS5 jump, right? Where it's like, okay, or like Series Xbox X to Series X. Okay, games run better, right? Like if I can pop in Tears of the Kingdom and they're like, yeah, day one it has a patch that this thing will run at 60 frames a second. It's like, cool, day one buy. Like I will absolutely do that. If not, then I'm going to be less inclined to probably do that. And I know you're smiling and laughing over there, Logan. I can see it on your
Yeah,
face.
just because you're one of the only people I know on this earth that is the make or break thing to decide if you're gonna get this on day one, is if there's performance patches for your Switch One games. It's very Chris Schreiber,
Yeah,
but it's
So
fair.
extra.
extra. No,
You know,
I
though,
mean, I don't know. I just, for as little as I get to play a week, it's like that. I'm dropping $500 on a console that I'll get to play an hour a week for. Like, it's just tough.
No, that's totally fair. And you raise, I think, one of the most interesting questions about this thing. Is the end of the trailer, they once again confirmed that Switch One software is backwards compatible, and it is digital and physical. They showed off a Mario Wonder cartridge inside the Switch 2, playing Mario Wonder on Switch 2. We don't know anything about how this is going to work. We have no idea. Is it emulating them essentially, or is it like PS4 to PS5 where there's going to be two different versions that you can install and play? Are there going to be performance patches for Switch 1 games, or are they just going to say, no, it runs exactly the same as it did on Switch 1, but you could just play it entirely on Switch 2? We don't know. We have no idea. And I think that because of how Xbox and PlayStation did it, people are assuming what we're going to see is Tears of the Kingdom just going to naturally run better on this thing. Does that at all seem like something Nintendo would do? Not to me.
Keep
at
in mind,
all.
like, on the Wii U, what they did was literally install the Wii OS as a VM
Yes.
on that console, and then you boot it into Wii mode, and it ran exactly the way that it did on a Wii.
Yeah.
So like I don't think they'll do that. Like, things have obviously I would hope they've learned a lot. The architecture is different. It's not PowerPC based. Like, it would be a mistake of them to do that. I think they would lose. I think they would lose more, like, the handheld, not just the handheld PC market, but like PC gamers that, like, yeah, I play on PC and I only buy Nintendo consoles. Like, I think a lot of those people would feel pretty burned by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And it'd be very Nintendo to boot into a Switch 1 mode. I don't think it's going to go that far, because this really feels like it's going to... they're calling it Switch 2. It has to be seamless. It has to make perfect sense. It's like calling it the iPhone 10 to the iPhone 9. Did they even skip 9, though? Did I pick like the worst example? I think they skipped 9.
They've
But
skipped at
it's
least
like
a number
that.
along the way.
You just have to buy it and be able to move everything over on day one. And it has to be easy and it has to work. They made you pay 75 cents to play the Super Nintendo game you bought on Wii on your Wii U menu. You could still go into Wii mode and play it there, but if you wanted it on the Wii U menu, you had to pay money for that. They're terrible at this historically. They're really, really bad at this. And I think that people just say, oh, it'll play better. Can't wait to play Tears of the Kingdom at 60. We have no idea if that's going to be a thing.
The only, like, counter that I'll make to that is the jump from DS to 3DS. I feel like they handled that really well. Like, for the time, they handled it really well. Because they've made such a big deal about, like, well, your Nintendo account will go with you, and I have to imagine it's going to be better. But to your point, I could also see them being like, yes, the upgrade is free to Nintendo Switch Online members. I would not be surprised if it was something like that.
And I think it's going to be a price increase too. I think the price of NSO is going up for Switch 2. I think that'll be a part of the April Direct. I think they're going to talk about their plans for that. But yeah, Justin, what do you think of all this? Because I just not liked seeing the internet kind of run away with the idea, oh, it's backwards compatible, I'm going to wait to play all this stuff on Switch 2. It could be exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, the internet would be foolish to make assumptions, but the internet is foolish in making assumptions, so here we are. I mean, there's so many ways to do backwards compatibility, like you have alluded to. I mean, some things like the PS2 to PS3, they basically had a PS2 built into it, and then in future revisions they took that out, which is why only early PS3s can play PS2 games. The Wii game could play GameCube games until they stopped doing that in the Wii. Like, that is also, in my opinion, the worst solution because that's more expensive hardware and doesn't give you any performance boost. I think the best example of that, honestly, is how Xbox does it, where with at no effort on the part of the developer, a lot of games get enhanced by running on the Xbox Series X and S. So that's my best case scenario for it, is that there would be some enhancements. That being said, I also wouldn't hate if they did some ports or Switch 2 specific upgrades of things. There's been rumors about a Breath of the Wild for Switch 2 going around, or even a director's cut with a Sony style like $10 upgrade would be fine too. And that's really what makes it something that is complicated, because there are so many different ways that they could approach it, and Nintendo historically approached it, frankly, the worst way possible. By the same token, I feel like we've seen them be much more capable of learning modern lessons and making some changes for the better. NSO, we can talk about all of the limitations of NSO. It is so much better than what they used to do. The way our accounts work and move from devices is so much better than it used to be, and not just because there's little Pikmin carrying our boxes around. And so I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic, and yeah, in best case scenario, the way that we're all kind of the way the internet is assuming it is would work would be ideal. But I do have some optimism that that's the case, largely because so much of what we've talked about and so much of what the rumors have been about the under the hood Switch 2 hardware is based around things like upscaling and AI-based enhancement, things like that. The sorts of things that the Xbox model of this takes advantage of. So if it is already baked into the hardware, I do think that makes it at least more likely that we're going to see something like that. So if I could boot up my Switch 2 from on day one, and even if it's just a selection of like first-party Nintendo titles that will just have, again, frame rate and like resolution bumps, that's a value add for me that I would be extremely happy with.
You're totally right. That'd be great. The way Xbox does it is the best. I played Sonic Unleashed at 60 FPS, and it's awesome. Have you ever heard Nintendo say the words or letters FPS? I haven't. I've never heard them say it once. I don't think they care. I don't think they care at all. And I'm just hesitant to believe this is the generation that they start caring. I just don't know if they're going to take the time, effort, and resources to make some sort of natural performance boost on the back end of this thing on no part of the developer. I think maybe they'll make upgrades for games. I still don't think they'll say the word frame rate. I think they'll just call it a Switch 2 version that takes full advantage of the Switch 2. That's all they'll say. Yeah, but you're right, though, that they're so much better than they used to be. And I've talked about this a lot before on the show. I was all physical on Wii U and 3DS because if your console died or you lost it, those purchases were gone forever. It's not like that anymore on Switch. That's already just a huge step. A big reason I switched to all digital is because I have faith that stuff's going to carry over, and that I know if I get a new Switch, I still have that purchase on my account and I can download it.
The other reason is he likes to taste the cartridges.
That's true. Yeah, I couldn't stop licking them, so I had to stop buying them. It was a problem.
We had to have an intervention.
So I just think that they're a lot better than they used to be. They're still pretty terrible though. So it's just a big question mark, and it's one of my biggest.
Are you talking about Nintendo or the flavors?
Both. No, I haven't. Have you guys tasted a Switch 2 cartridge or a Switch cartridge? Have you done?
Not in a while. Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I definitely did,
but not in a while.
Came out, yeah.
I did in 2017, but I haven't since then.
Yeah,
just because it was the thing. It's weird. Yeah.
Well, why would you do it again?
Well, because we have to taste the Switch 2 cartridges.
Yeah, we do have to. We'll do a live taste test on the. I guess I have to buy one physical game so I can do a live taste test with you guys on this show.
Oh, I promise you'll end up with the digital and the physical version of at least the Zelda games when they have a special collection with the book and all that.
Yeah, you know it. Yeah, we can do it then. Anyways, let's move on to something else though. Let's talk about. If you guys don't have anything else on the console itself, we should talk about Mario Kart because
I have a limited amount of things to say about that, but we should talk about Mario Kart.
Okay, Mario Kart 9. That's, I guess, what we've decided we're calling it. Mario Kart 9 was teased at the end of this thing. It was off-screen footage. We never got a full-screen look at this thing. It was running on the handheld. It was running on a TV in the background of the trailer. and it's a new Mario Kart. It's the first new Mario Kart in over 10 years, not counting mobile ones or ones where you drove a remote control car around your living room to varying degrees of success. Now, this is a real Mario Kart that we saw. The track shown was called Mario Brothers Circuit, and the big thing right out front is that people spotted 24 different racers on track in this thing. That is doubling the number it's been since Mario Kart Wii, 12 to 24. That's a huge change. And then the art style is really leaning more into that kind of Super Mario Brothers Wonder. They're shorter, they're rounder, they're cartoonier, very expressive facial expressions and animations. I'm a huge fan of what we saw here, even though it was only 10 seconds. Just the concept of a new Mario Kart at this point is enough to get me excited. And I liked that they just gave us a little sprinkle of what to expect. So it's another thing we're looking forward to learning more about in April. Chris, what do you think of this little taste of Mario Kart?
I mean, I'm obviously very excited for it. I think the direction that they're going with the art is great. It seems like they're really inspired by like the original, the Super Nintendo kind of artwork that they had
Yes.
back then. I just want to know more. You know, like, are there one of the big things that keeps going around is like, are they going to have skins available for all these different characters where like they're gonna, you know, you can choose like different art styles. It looks like the motorcycles are back. And
And
cars are back.
snowmobiles from Tour,
Snowmobiles, yeah.
which is crazy.
Honestly, I think there's a lot of inspiration that they could, and I'm sure they will, that they'll pull from Tour that never made it to 8. I do think it's interesting that we didn't see Zero Gravity. And they keep talking about, like, you know, Mario Kart 9 is this like crazy shtick, or at least they did, you know, a while back. What if the shtick is just like, it's basic Mario Kart? Like, what if it literally is like,
people.
no, yeah, like there's 24 people, there's no hang glider, there's no zero gravity. Like, how would we feel about that?
I'd feel great about that. Honestly, I think that that'd be a mix-up from what we've had, and I think that I need Mario Kart 9 to be different. I've played Mario Kart 8 for over 400 hours on Switch alone. Like, I've played this game so much. Me and my friends got really into the online. Like, we play online races still to this day all the time. I love it, and I hate to say it, I'm sick of it. I am. It's just like too much ice cream. You can't eat ice cream forever, and I'm done. I need a new flavor. I need something different, and I really liked this footage we saw. A lot of people are like, oh, it just looks like 8. It really doesn't. Like, it really doesn't look like 8.
At a glance, it looks like 8.
Well.
Like,
Yeah.
like when it first popped up, I was like, is it different? And then, like, as the characters got bigger on the screen, it was like, okay. Because, like, I think the landscape, like, you could tell me that that level is from Mario Kart 8 at first glance, and I would believe you. And once you see the character models, that's when it's like, okay, this is clearly a different game. I think that's a valid concern, at least at first glance. But we also, like, we have 10 seconds of footage that we're going off of, so, like, glean of it what you can.
I know this is another place that people were annoying me with their reactions to it, because people were commenting, it looks like a Wii U game. You can't judge how this game looks or performs based on 7 seconds of off-screen footage in a trailer. Like, come on. What are we doing right now? We didn't even get a full-screen look at this thing, and you're telling me it doesn't perform as well as you want a next-gen Nintendo game? You don't know anything about this game besides the tease they showed us.
Well, not only that, and, like, I don't know, I notice it more with Nintendo games than probably any other game that comes out, but like, I really noticed it with Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Probably because just recency bias. But, like, if you look at a trailer for that game on YouTube and, like, the compression that's happening, it's like, all right, it looks fine. And then when you get it on the Switch, it's like, okay, this actually looks, like, really clean.
Yes.
And, like, is definitely running way better than it looked in that random YouTube trailer that I saw. I don't know how, if Nintendo can fix that, how they fix it ever. But I feel like all their marketing material is that way, and I feel that way every time I get a Switch game where I'm like, yeah, it looks all right, I don't know. And then I, like, boot it into the system, and I'm like, oh my god, this is, like, really beautiful looking.
Yeah, Donkey Kong is a really good example of that, and we'll talk about that game more in a little bit. But yeah, and this is even a step further than that, like we talked about, because you're looking at a compressed trailer through your screen and it's not even on the main screen. It's on a small screen through your screen in this compressed video. Like you have no idea what this game is going to look like. And oh no, it looks like Mario Kart 8. One of the most visually striking games Nintendo's ever made. What a disaster. Like, come on. I don't know. Justin, what do you think of Mario Kart?
I thought it was awesome. Like I was really into it. I think that people are like maybe focusing on the wrong things too, because I thought it looked like looked really good. You can see a lot of like really cool reflection coming off of things. The lighting looks really really nice. The roads really detailed. You can see how pockmarked the roads are. All the backgrounds. You know, we don't know what the final version is going to look like in terms of things like draws and stuff, but you could see what seemed like for miles with a decent amount of detail, and even the racers. Like I don't know how closely you looked, but like if you just watch Mario's kart, for example, it looks pretty much like his kart from the most recent Mario Kart, except if you look at the front, you can actually see the suspension, and if you watch him coming around corners, you can actually see the suspension flexing individually based on like what direction the kart is turning. So like there's a lot more detail in this, and we can't just focus on like resolution and how fuzzy Donkey Kong looks. There's so much more going on, and so yeah, and things like that, like they make me actually wonder a little bit about how some of this stuff will work. You're right, the vehicles look largely pulled out of Mario Kart 8. We have the big monster trucks, the smaller carts, the motorcycles, a few alternate vehicles. I wonder how much customization there will be in things like tires. Will things like suspension make a difference? I don't know. Could be an interesting wrinkle to mix in there. The one thing I'm the least sure about, though, is how I would feel if there were 24 human racers in a race. If I were pushing for first place and I got hit by 17 red shells in a row, I might just walk into the sea. Like that might be the end. Or if I come around a bend and everybody has dropped a banana, who besides Donkey Kong is going to enjoy that? That is ridiculousness. And it could be chaotic fun, but and that is something that Mario Kart can cater to. But at the same time, one of the great things about the modern iteration of it is it also does cater towards very skillful driving. And if there's too much like I don't know, almost Fall Guys-esque chaos, I think it can take away from that. And the worst thing would be if there was so much of that if you jump in like a comp online thing, it is like the equivalent of Final Destination no items, where they like shut off all the sauce that makes Mario Kart and makes it interesting. So I'm cautious about how you balance that and how you make that all work. But like, listen, if you can look at this and you don't see a lot of differences between this and Mario Kart's before, then we haven't been playing the same games.
Yeah, and there's really good detail in that close-up of Mario also, where he goes over a bump and his face stretches, like it becomes more of an oval and then bounces back down to being round in a circle.
There's a lot going on.
And that's just it's very Mario Wonder to me. It's like that really was the start of a new era, I think, for this franchise, and that kind of paired with the movie. Like it's a new look and a new direction for the series, and I really liked it, and I agree. It looks awesome. And I think I share your concern about 24 racers, because it's Mario Kart already. If you're in the middle of the pack, it is a dogfight to claw to the top, and it's really, really hard to do that. And if there's 24 racers, that's going to radically change the balance of how Mario Kart has always worked, and they'll have to figure that out.
All of a sudden.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a complete overhaul of the item selection, because I think about triple reds and just how some of these things would work in the context of double the racers, and it doesn't. So I'm really interested to see how that looks. And I think there is a big twist beyond 24 racers that we don't know yet. There's a lot of theories out there. There's kind of one of the prevailing theory I'm a fan of is this fuel tank idea, where people see these attachments on the carts where maybe you have mushrooms are gone, and instead you have a boost that you refill at the start of each lap, kind of like another racing series that Nintendo makes. And you refill this boost. There's this sparkling item at the Yoshi restaurant when they zoom out at the very end of that clip, and the theory is maybe you hit that to go through this pit lane to refill your boost tank, and then you have a few boosts to use on the next lap. Or you can choose to forgo that and go past it on a faster route to skip refilling your boost. So that could be a cool thing to shake it up. And then when it zooms out, it looks like there's a lot of branching paths on this track that we see. Maybe that's just like a Mario Kart Tour thing where each lap is a different path. Maybe it's something more, like a more open zone Mario Kart type thing where you can go different ways. we'll see. But I think there's a ton of unanswered questions about this game, and that's what this trailer was for, right? That's what this little taste was for. It wasn't to give answers; it was to raise questions. So I liked it a lot. I thought it looked awesome. We got to talk about Donkey Kong's redesign because he looks so much different. It's the first thing Chris and I talked about when we talked about the Switch 2 reveal trailer. He looks way more like classic Donkey Kong, like NES arcade era Donkey Kong, or like the Super Mario Brothers movie Donkey Kong, who was redesigned to look more like that original Donkey Kong. Chris, you're the Donkey Kong super fan. Do you like his new look?
I do. I mean, I think I think a lot of uh, what I'll call traditional of the last like 10 to 20 years of Nintendo. I think a lot of these characters kind of need a bit of a facelift. Honestly, we've been seeing it more with Mario in like different capacities, and I think it has been refreshing. I think it's time for him to, if they're going to bring Donkey Kong back, like give him a facelift. What I think is odd though is like if they're going to do this, and if this is going to be his redesign moving forward, they're going to have, and it's probably not a big deal, but like they're going to do this, and they're also going to have the parking Universal with like the old, what I'll call the old style Donkey Kong,
The
walking
rare
around.
style, the Donkey
Yeah,
Kong
the rare
Country
style, and
yeah.
Cranky Kong, like it's not what they're doing today. And it seems a little like out of cadence. But it's probably unavoidable, right? Like that design probably happened long after the design of the park and everything they were going to do there was decided upon. And that's always going to happen. As I would love to sit here and be like, "Yep, this basically confirms that there's going to be a standalone Donkey Kong game on the Switch too. Everybody get ready!" And like, I don't know. I think Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is going to sell like garbage, and nobody's going to buy that game.
You do?
And
Really? Why?
I do. I don't think
I think
people
it
care.
hits over a million easy.
I think by Christmas it hits over 1 million, but I think that game is another, without getting too into it, I think it's another lazy port, and I think Nintendo fans are starting to become wise to it. I mean, I bought it, but I don't know.
Did you feel that
It's
way
just,
about Luigi's Mansion 2 HD though? Because that sold almost 2 million in its first like month.
all right, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Which was also a very lazy port. Like that was a
No, it
lazy
was.
one,
I mean,
too.
it's all these like all these games with the surname of HD, like it is like bare bones effort that they're putting into these, it seems.
Yeah. So I don't know if I agree that it feels out of cadence for Nintendo to redesign Donkey Kong and then they have the rare one in the theme park. If you look at Mario alone, there is Mario and Paper Mario and what he looks like in Mario and Luigi, and there's so many different looks for what Mario can look like at any given time. Why not have two Donkey Kongs? And you have the Donkey Kong art style that's kind of when he's with Mario and friends, which could be this one, and then you have the Donkey Kong Country Donkey Kong, which is in the theme park, and if that series ever gets a new game, my god, he looks like that still to kind of preserve the rare legacy and keep that one going. But I think it's time for Nintendo to kind of like give a rat about Donkey Kong again internally. When was the last time they made a Donkey Kong game themselves internally? I think it was Jungle Beat was the last time Nintendo proper made a Donkey Kong game. That is so long ago. That's 20 years ago. And they had it in Rare in the UK in the 90s and into the early 2000s until Rare was gone. And then they handed it to Retro in the US, and that's been his home for a long time. And then NST, which is in Redmond at NOA's headquarters, has made the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. Nintendo itself hasn't cared about this guy forever. And me seeing this redesign of him, I'm thinking maybe they're going to do something themselves with Donkey Kong, and then continue to maybe Retro, maybe someone else carries the torch of the other side. I would love to see that. Please, like, just give this guy something. And this is the first time I've seen Nintendo do anything with this guy in 20 years. Wow, they gave him a new design. They've just been plopping that rare design everywhere they go. It took them 10 years to add Diddy Kong to Mario Kart, right? They don't care about these guys. Maybe now they're starting to. So I think this is a positive sign of things to come for DK. And I'm hopeful the rare design doesn't go away forever, because it's so iconic, and that just is what he's been for so long. But maybe Nintendo's doing something themselves with him for the first time in a long time.
I think it's worth pointing out, too, that with the release of the Super Mario Brothers movie, Shigeru Miyamoto talked about the fact that they redesigned him for the first time in 40 years for that movie, and he specifically called out that it was to be reminiscent of his original design. So this just seems in keeping with what they've desired to do with that character, which I think is totally fine. And I hope when we play whatever the future Smash is, there's you can make Donkey Kong look like either one, which could be a lot of fun. I think that as somebody who is frankly an older gamer, like, I like it. It does conjure up some like old school Donkey Kong feelings, and I imagine like dusty old instruction manuals and the pictures of him inside of those and what those look like. So I'm a fan. I'm into this. Whether or not that means that like the rare design goes by the wayside for now, it doesn't really matter to me either way. I do think that you do eventually have to refresh characters, and like they're kind of doing that step by step. I mean, Mario changed a lot this last generation, all the way down to the voice actor. Yeah. So this again seems in keeping with what Nintendo's actively trying to do.
Yeah, so let's stick on Donkey Kong now and talk about Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. I think that's a wrap on our Switch 2 discussion for this week, but there's going to be a bunch more to talk about in the weeks to come as we approach that big April 2nd date. Last thing I'll say is you can sign-ups may have closed. I think they probably did. The slots were really starting to fill up, but some of you are going to get a chance to get your hands on Switch 2 in the U.S. Those locations are in Los Angeles, Dallas, and New York, and that's happening after the April 2nd Nintendo Direct, where you can go into these cities and play. I signed up. You guys signed up too, yeah?
Yep.
No,
yeah,
I didn't.
Okay. Oh, Justin didn't. He doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to get hands-on with Switch 2. I think we're going to get some boardroom luck like we did for the playtest, and we're all going to... Chris and I are going to be playing Switch 2, hopefully, before it comes out. But yeah, hopefully you signed up. Boardroom. What was that?
I'll try and weasel my way in somehow.
Yeah, I'll invite you. You could add plus ones,
+1?
Yes! But the plus ones have to be part of your Nintendo family, Nintendo Switch Online family account, where you can have up to 8 people on the same
Logan,
thing.
we can make that happen.
It's so funny. Yeah,
we could be a Nintendo family.
In the same household. That's cheating.
Boardroom family.
Didn't somebody on the Discord say they tried to add a child that was under 12 or something, and then they had to pay $1?
I didn't see
Nintendo. Why?
There, like somebody shared. It was like right when it came out. They may have fixed it, but like when they first tried to add like somebody that it was like if your child is under X age, and then it brought them somewhere, and it was you like hit them with a charge.
That's very Nintendo. Yeah, just like the charge, it'll 50 cents to play Breath of the Wild at 60 FPS. You'll see. Let's talk about Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. It is out. And you guys mentioned that I reviewed it on the Asylum last week. I reviewed it over on IGN, gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a great game. It's not a great remaster. And I think it's a fine, bare bones remaster, as we talked about. But the game is so awesome that it's still great. And Chris, you're playing it too. I hear you're in World 3. How are you liking returning to Donkey Kong Country Returns?
I'm enjoying it, playing it the way that I've decided to play it, which is I'm blowing on as few things as possible.
That's the way to do it.
That mechanic is one of the worst mechanics I've ever seen in a video game. Like it just I don't know if I can think of another game that just like has the momentum completely sucked out of it the way that thing does, where you'll just be running and then all of a sudden you have to stop and blow on a flower. Like it's so dumb. So, I mean, other than that, it's a fine game. I'm always going to be a fan of a Donkey Kong platformer, right? I don't think it controls as well as Tropical Freeze. I think they should have probably rebuilt this game in that engine, for both like the visual enhancements that game has, and just like there almost feels like there's like a delay in this game of some kind compared to Tropical Freeze. At least like I kept going back to back just to be like, is it me? Like, is it just in my head? And like something just feels off about this to me. That like I eventually got over, but like when I first started playing it, I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. The textures are pretty bad in some cases. Specifically that second boss fight against the crabs, they look really bad. But I think it's just because they're such small characters, then they zoom in on them for a cutscene, and like when you're playing normally, you don't really notice it.
The cutscenes don't look good. They just
the cutscenes don't look good. Yeah, they don't. I mean, all that to say, like I have a hard time recommending this game, especially if anybody's like, well, I've never played Tropical Freeze or HD, and I want to play them both. Which should I play? And I'm of two minds where I'm like, well, if you're willing to drop $120 on Donkey Kong games, then like, sure, have at it. If you're only going to buy one, buy Tropical Freeze and never play this one. Because I think like once you play Tropical Freeze, this game kind of becomes like not soured, but like it is a lesser experience, and you will notice that it is not as good of a game. I know it sounds like I'm being very negative on this game. Like I do plan on playing all of it. The fact that I'm 2 worlds in, I think, is pretty good. I also don't think it's that difficult necessarily. If you try to get all the puzzle pieces, I think that's where the difficulty lies, because like I don't know where the hell those things are. Like, good luck finding them without a guide. I'm sure Logan did, because he's amazing, but like I just can't do it.
No, I don't care about the
and I'm not
pieces.
going to.
I don't care about them in either Returns or Tropical Freeze, because they do this thing. I think the original Country games do this too, where to get to 100%, you just need the Kong letters, and then you can get to 200% completion by getting all the puzzle pieces and all the extra stuff. So both my files are at 100% because the Kong letters are just on the route. You never... You can miss them if you don't time your jump right, or if a platform collapses, you needed to get to a little bit faster, and then you can just die, go back to the checkpoint, and try again. But they're always on the critical path. The puzzle pieces are very, very well hidden, and yeah, it's not worth it to get the concept art or whatever it is you unlock, where getting the Kong letters is how you actually unlock bonus levels, and then the true ending and the final challenges this game has, which are really, really good. So yeah, those are worth it. Puzzle pieces, not worth it.
Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, I'm having a good time with it. I think what this game actually does really well that I don't like about Tropical Freeze is like you're actually in a jungle setting. And I think the ice levels of Tropical Freeze do start to get, I don't want to say tired, but like almost like frustrating, because it's like I like the aesthetic of being in like a jungle setting so much, in across just all the Donkey Kong Country like games, and Tropical Freeze not being that, it does start to get a little frustrating. So it is refreshing in that regard.
There's only one ice world in Tropical Freeze. It's only the last world that's actually ice. There's not a single ice level. Like, there's like 1 or 2 in the entire game leading up to that final world. Yeah. Yeah. So Tropical Freeze, I 100%ed it over the last 2 weeks, because it's just phenomenal. I think it's so great. Because Returns, I was going back and forth also during the review period, and then after I finished the review, I was so into Tropical Freeze, I just finished the whole thing, 100%ed it. And there's 6 worlds in Tropical Freeze, and the last world is Donkey Kong Island, but it's frozen over. The first 5 worlds are not ice worlds. It's a jungle world, it's a savannah world, it's the Juice Factory one, which is the best platforming world of all time. It's the beach world, and maybe I missed one and then there's like an Autumn Heights, like a mountain world. But there's no ice levels in those. And then the Donkey Kong Island is frozen over, and it's amazing because there's 8 levels on Donkey Kong Island, and each one takes place in a world from Returns. So world 1 is the jungle. So level 1 in Tropical Freeze's final world is the frozen jungle. It's amazing. It's such a cool connective tissue between those 2 games. I was losing my mind over it playing them back to back. Like, it's incredible, which is why I think you should play Returns first. I really do. It makes Tropical Freeze even better than it already is.
How's the difficulty compared between the 2? Because I really only have...
is harder.
Yeah.
Tropical Freeze is way harder.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Returns cranks it up in the last 3 or 4 worlds. I think there's some tough levels at the end, and then the K levels, the bonus levels are hard. But Tropical Freeze as a whole is much more challenging and more creative, and it is the better game. I think it is the best 2D platformer of all time. I've decided that on this most recent playthrough. I think it's just nearly perfect. And Returns is a very great platformer. It's really really great, but it's not Tropical Freeze. So I agree with you, Chris. It's a dilemma. Which do you play first? Because Tropical Freeze is way better, but it's made better, I think, if you play them in the order they came out. But it is a
Yeah.
big ask when they're both $60 games, and this one is overpriced. It just is.
That was
It's
the other
too
thing I was going to
expensive.
say. Yeah. They need, and like we've said it on the show time and time again, but like these HD ports being $60 is like it's insane. They used to have like Nintendo Selects with the Wii, and like the Platinum series or whatever, was it the Platinum series on or Player's Choice, I think it was on GameCube. Like
Yeah.
they did reach a point with a lot of these games where it was like, all right, this is an old release that we're porting, or a game that's been around for a while and we're going to drop the price of. Like they never have done that with Switch. They didn't do it with Wii U, and I feel like
There
it's
were
a
selects
mistake.
on Wii U. There were Nintendo
Were there selects on Wii U?
back then. And 3DS. Yeah, it was the red boxes with the gold banners. Yeah, they had them.
Okay, I guess I just never bought them.
Hmm
But the yeah, I do kind of wish at this point that they would do it with Switch. And anything that's like one of these HD ports of, you know, a game from 2006 or whatever this is, like, come on, $40. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, I think Mario vs. Donkey Kong was actually a remake, and it was $50. And then this one
Yeah.
is bare bones as it gets, and it's 60. Yeah, their pricing structure is a little bit out of whack. Justin, are you planning on returning to Returns at all?
No, and honestly, you guys hit the nail on the head for exactly why. If it were part of a like greatest hits collection at a lower price point, yeah, I wouldn't hesitate. But my interest and enthusiasm for playing it like exists, but it doesn't $60 exist. You know, if it was like $30, 100% do it instantaneously, do it tonight. $40, yeah, probably at some point, but not for full rip. Especially not when there's just so many good things to play elsewise. Like it's not just a question of do I want to spend the money, but do I want to spend the money and time? One or the other, but not both probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think it's really, really great and absolutely worth playing. And I think that as people who have been playing Nintendo games forever, I think it's easy for us to get lost in the weeds and think, why? I've already bought this game 2 times. Why are they re-releasing it? That was 13 years ago. There are kids who were not alive when either version of this came out that are going to play it on Switch. So I do think, for me, like, reviewing this, right, I get comments, well, it's they've already released this game and it's $60, and it's like, yeah, I'm not reviewing the job they did remastering it. It's part of the review for sure, but I'm reviewing the entire product. And yeah, it's a shoddy remaster of an amazing game that I love, and that I still recommend you play it. It's just then it's up to you, the consumer, to decide, is it worth your $60? I can't make that call for you, right? I can't decide that. That's up to you. I tell you, this is a great video game. You decide if it's worth $60, and for a lot of people, it's not. And I totally get that. It's overpriced completely. And yeah, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD was overpriced. I don't like the pricing structure they're going for. Paper Mario, that one worked for me. That was a remake. That was $60, sure. But some of these other ones, nah, it's out of line.
Yeah, I think like, you know, back to the to the blowing mechanic, but like I think this is one of those games that like really would benefit from them doing like a full remaster and just like even tweaking just a handful of things, and the game would really shine from it. The other thing that I do want to point out, not to like totally dunk on them, but like the studio, I was shocked when I heard the studio that was doing this, Forever Entertainment. They don't have a great track record of porting games, and like they're basically a port house. For other studios. House of the Dead remake that like critically wasn't received very well, and the Panzer Dragoon remake that was done relatively recently, they're responsible for that. I'm kind of surprised that Nintendo would even consider them, to be honest. And I'm of two minds. Like if this sells well enough, then like they may have them do other games, and part of me is like, cool, you're gonna get HD remakes of older games, but like, what if it's a game that everybody holds really near and dear, and then this remake comes out, and it's like, all right, this is the one this is how we're getting it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, that's gonna kind of go over like a lead balloon for some people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's frustrating. It feels like a coin flip right now. There's people who love Returns. It's some people's favorite game, one of their favorite games of all time, and same with something like Thousand Year Door. And one gets a loving, faithful, ground-up remake treatment, and then the other gets just the thinnest coat of HD paint you could ask for. And that's just the versions of these games that will forever exist on this platform now. And yeah, that's annoying. I don't know who loves Luigi's Mansion 2 that much, but there's people out there. It's the same thing there.
But what's frustrating is it makes it confusing for the consumer. Like, you don't really know, unless you're like really into this, like you really don't know what quality of product that you're getting. And maybe some people aren't noticing it as much as, people that are locked into it like we are, are, but I don't know.
Yeah. I thought the remastering job didn't bother me at all. Like, do I wish Donkey Kong was as fuzzy as he is in Tropical Freeze? Yes. Is it a deal breaker? No. The platforming speaks for itself and is awesome, but yeah, I do think it's a discussion worth having. I also wanted to say, good job on the Asylum last week doing the DK rap, Chris. That was incredible.
Thank you.
I really, really
Thank you.
loved that. That was awesome.
Wait. Logan can see those? Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, I
You heard
listened
all
to
the
them the
smack
moment
talk.
they dropped.
Oh no.
I love the Asylum. I love listening to the Asylum. I give it a 5-star rating. And I've been playing so much Donkey Kong, as you guys know, and I've been playing Donkey Kong 94 this week, and we said it on the show every time we talk about that stupid Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake. Gosh, they remade the wrong game. They remade the wrong one. DK94 is so good. It is so awesome. Why isn't it on Switch Online yet? I was at the airport, and I was like, I'm going to play Donkey Kong 94 on the plane. And I go to the Game Boy app to boot it up. It's like, oh, you have to connect to the internet to see if you can play this. I'm like, oh my God. Yep. So I take my fiance's phone, I turn on her wireless hotspot, I connect my Switch to that, I download a software update for the Game Boy app, I go in, and then it's not in there. Why isn't it in there yet? They added every other Donkey Kong game to Switch Online. I was sure that this one was going to be there, but it's not. So I don't remember what I played instead, like Sonic the Hedgehog or something like that. So yeah, that was disappointing that they added the 3 crappy Donkey Kong Land games. Sorry if you like those. I don't. And they didn't add Donkey Kong 94 to Switch Online. It's insane. I don't know why that's like the one game that's not there. That's the end of my grievance. I'm also going to play Jungle Beat again. I haven't played that in years.
They don't want everybody to know how good Donkey Kong 94 is.
Yeah.
Because then they'll be like,
They don't want to set
geez,
the
now
bar
we gotta
too
remake
high.
this. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You say you're
They keep
playing
remaking
Jungle
the
Beat
wrong
again?
game. I'm going to play Jungle Beat again.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm gonna make it happen. I don't have bongos anymore, and I don't feel like I can settle for playing it on the controller, so I might have to find my way to some DK bongos again to play Jungle Beat, because yeah, I missed that game. I remember the bosses being very scary and it raining and it just looking awesome, and I'm sure it's still gonna look awesome.
All of those things are true.
Nice. Jungle Beat. Okay, I think we'll save our questions for another day. So you've rolled credits on another episode of the Toadstool Boardroom. We're a weekly Nintendo podcast here, usually on Thursdays, but this week maybe a little earlier. I don't know when this is going up. Video version on YouTube, audio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcast. You can find the show on Blue Sky at Toadstool Boardroom. Send us an email, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. Join our Discord server, link in the description of every episode. Justin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky. Just look for my last name, Koreis. I don't remember if I plugged it last time, but if you go to IGN.com, you'll see some video guides to The Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic for Marvel Rivals. I've been playing a ton of that lately and having a really good time. I'm starting to line up my next set of guides. Can't talk about that yet because it's for something upcoming. But if you know me, you probably have an idea what I'm excited about. And so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Very nice. Chris, I'm so sorry. I forgot to ask you about your Donkey Kong barrel. Please talk about getting it and
yes.
show it off.
Oh, I have my Donkey Kong barrel. I got 2 from the guy at GameStop.
How did you get 2?
I went in the middle of the
drums.
day, and he said, so they sent me like 15 of these, and only 2 of you guys pre-ordered it. do you want two? And I said, yes, I'll give one to my son. So he gave me
That's
two,
awesome.
but he had a lot
Incredible.
left over.
Can
At
you
the
show it on
Wilgrove
camera again?
Mall.
I got to see this thing.
I can, yeah. So you can. It's about yay big.
Nice.
Yeah, and you can put your pens in it, maybe some coins, some snacks.
I'm telling you, a little stretchy material, a little rubber band. You can make your own Donkey Kongas.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have two
You
of them.
got
I
two
just
of
have
them.
to, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll 3D print a little housing.
Perfect.
There you go.
I totally forgot that you clap in Jungle Beat, and there's like a microphone that picks up when you clap.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so good. Yeah, I totally forgot you do that. Yeah, very cool.
Just be considerate of
we're-
your neighbors.
Yeah, I know. I used to play it in my childhood home, but now I'm in an apartment where people be like, "Is he playing Jungle Beat up there?" My God, Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me at Shrives93 all over the internet. I don't post that much, but you can yell at me over there, or you can join our Discord. You can yell at me there, where I'm way more active on the internet.
Yeah. Come yell at Chris. You can find me at Logan J Plant on Blue Sky. What am I talking? I'm talking about Donkey Kong, and I'm talking about Mario Kart, and I'm talking about Nintendo Switch 2, which I'm very, very psyched about. But for now, that is all the time I got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time right back here in the Toadstool Boardroom.